Okay, Kim will wait until the end to ask her question. I think you can move forward, Melody.
There's a couple of questions on the Q&A that I'm going to address real quick. The slides will be made available on our website, and we'll send them out with our newsletter. Okay, Ben, you can find the assigned reviewer on the screening or primary review task as shown as in this slide here. Oops, not that one. That one. So if there's a change to your application information that's in a current review cycle, you want to email the assigned street use reviewer, who is the primary reviewer on the portal, and also who is doing the screening task. Just know that when you are in a review cycle, we can't always stop that review, even though you have changes, depending on where it is, right? So if some secondary reviewers or even the primary review have already done a review on that original submittal, just know that we kind of have to finish that, like cut it, like stop it, and start pretty much a new review cycle if you have changes, if that makes sense. Marta, it is okay to ask about permit timelines, but we do ask that if you're in our posted, within our posted timelines, that you not contact us if you're in the posted time. If you're outside of that, please feel free to email the reviewer for a status. Okay, we get a lot of questions on this, and I'm not surprised. So I'm just going to go through them. Okay, Jen, when you contact the individual reviewer, you can expect us to respond within 2 business days. Mike, yes, you need to plan more than 10 weeks to get a street use permit in case of correct. Yes. Yeah, and so Mark, Mike, we'll talk about that in our meeting later too, but it really depends on the complexity of your permit. If you really have, it's outside the core area, the center core area, it's on a non-arterial or an arterial offline of that center area, probably not. It depends. But it also depends on how good your traffic control plan is, right? And how good your other documents are too. Does that make sense? Like if you submit really good quality plans, the amount of correction cycles go down. So there's variables there, but I would say if you're in the downtown area, I would say yes, please plan for at least 2 review cycles. So Ben, we have a City of Seattle directory. We are not able to, just because of where the email address is housed, it's not housed in Accela, it's housed outside. We're not able to display their email addresses in the portal, but you can go to the City of Seattle's directory and get their email address. Typically, it is just the first dot last name at seattle.gov.
And Kim had a question with regards to timeline. The question is, so the 9 weeks initial review of corrections, it adds another 8 weeks to the 9 weeks. Is 8 weeks added for each correction? Yikes.
Yes, here's the challenge with that. we are dealing with, if it's just us, street use, the one group reviewing it, no, it doesn't take 8 weeks. But if we have to route out to traffic control plan review and hub coordination, for instance, they have their own queues that they're managing. And just right now, we are sitting at 8 weeks for every review cycle, right? So that's why we want to talk about, just traffic control plan tips and how to get those through one time as much as possible. And it doesn't mean that we're not working on, shortening those timelines. Just a reminder that we had significant budget cuts last year due to the pandemic. And so we are now just across the board able to hire for our vacant positions, but it's going to take us some time to get, those individuals hired and trained and ramped up. So Christina, you have a lot of questions about WebEx. WebEx is very different than Teams. The reason why we use WebEx is because of that external component and people are able to call in. It's just a lot more friendlier for external people to join using WebEx. I don't know all the answers to the questions about if you can see all the attendees. I don't think that's an option in WebEx. Jen, if you do not receive an email back from the assigned reviewer within 2 business days, please ask for a status. Yes, extensions are 1 week. That's just an average, Tammy. So if it's taking longer, just email the assigned reviewer and see where they're at.
Melody, do you mind if I make a suggestion about cutting down need for reviews?
No, not right now. Oh, no, sorry, go ahead. Yes, of course. But hey, Chris, will you kind of explain kind of where you're coming from and where why your suggestion is good?
Well, I hope it's good. We'll find out.
That's true. That was kind of an assumption on my part.
If you don't know me, I'm Christopher Ludka. I'm the inspections manager for street use. I've also worked as the traffic control review supervisor in the past. I've also worked in the hub and have done a few other things around town. One thing that I might suggest, if you're particularly concerned about review timelines, there's low-hanging fruit and problems to avoid that we see fairly commonly. If you're particularly concerned about a lot of back and forth, make sure that things like matching site conditions on your TCPs, conforming to standards like that, actually having designers look at the current field conditions, you can avoid a lot of back and forth there. And I think a lot of people do, but it's worth talking to your folks about due diligence and advanced planning. Another thing that will cut down your back and forth a little bit is making sure that when your folks are submitting plans, they're taking into account our right-of-way restoration rules about likely impacts. There are delays that can be avoided by making sure that what you're planning and what you're permitting for actually meets the current site conditions. And that includes in traffic control plans and being aware in advance of what the other right-of-way conditions are around you for long-term development, that sort of thing. So it's really worth a little bit of field work to make sure that what you're sending in is conforming with the actual conditions. And it's not going to solve your problem in every case, but it may cut down some of those simple things that get pushed back because you need to answer questions about something that is already out there.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, I'm going to move on from this. One thing to know is we are working on a help article that kind of talks about our review processes that we went over today, kind of what happens at each step of those review processes, and what is the difference, what is a target date versus how to estimate your overall timeline. So expect that to be published probably in the next couple of weeks. And we'll send that out in our monthly newsletter too. Okay, moving on to utility permits. The first thing we wanted to do is talk about utility major permit thresholds. So we've been working for the last 9 months or so on just how to make these as clear as we can, so there's not that much gray area. There's always gray area, but we've done some good work here in trying to really clarify some of the confusion in our previous attempts at this. So I'm not going to go over this in super detail. I just want to let you know that there's been some slight changes to this. Please go to our utility work on the right-of-way website to do a deeper dive. And if you have any questions, you can email William Boo. Right, William?
And there's a question from Marta Sanchez. What's the difference between inspection and reviewers who does the final close?
I don't understand the question. So we haven't gotten to inspections yet. If you're asking who closes the permit, that's an automatic thing that Accela does. Typically, when the inspections, when the final or acceptance inspection is done. Matt Trout, I can unmute you if you want to speak to that. I have to find you first. Okay, Matt Trout, you are unmuted.
Yeah, I had a question for complex technical issues. What's the threshold for deep excavations on utility major permit thresholds?
William, do you want to take that?
Utility work.
Or Patty?
Sorry, I'm looking it up. So the question is how deep?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure there's a specific depth to give you, Matt. I think it depends, what's in and around that excavation. But if you want a little more transparency into that requirement, we can definitely look into that and give a little more oomph around that.
Yeah.
It's not something we really have like
a set depth. If shoring is required, would be my estimation, but I'm still looking it up because I don't want to give you a bum steer here. So I'll see if it has an exact verbiage for depth.
Cool. Yeah, you can come back to it if you'd like. I was a little bit of time looking for it and I didn't see anything, so I figured I'd just ask since it came up. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And we can follow up on that too. Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about the utility use versus permit expiration dates. We have changed these rules from what was there when we first launched, and you can find these new rules on the utility work on the right-of-way website. So just a reminder that one of the things we changed was we did move the kind of expiration period on utility permits from 90 to 6 months as part of our Accela launch in November. We did that just because we heard from utility agencies that they really struggled to get all construction phases done within those 90 days. So just some nuances about this to really understand is you do not have to extend a use within that 6-month expiration period if your duration does not go past the initial issue duration. Does that make sense? So if you had 12 days that we originally issued and you work within those 12 days for all phases, you don't have to extend anything. You would only need to extend if you go past that duration or if you go past the 6 months expiration date. And then if you, and then to do that, to either extend the duration or extend the dates, just do an extension amendment. If you need to change the scope, just a reminder that that's a revision amendment. And you can do both a scope change and an extension under a revision amendment. So in hub areas, if you are moving the start date up or if you are changing your issued use dates within the 6 months expiration period, please be sure to work directly with your hub coordinator and schedule those dates before you start work. And if you're working on any weekends, just remember that you also have to give the inspection team a 3-day heads up that you're working the weekends, right? Those two things have to align. Your hub coordinator has to schedule it and you have to notify the inspectors. All right, so let's go into the rules. These are tricky. It's, you know, tricky thing to do. We heard all of the kind of pain points and the struggles around the confusion around how it was first built. So we just really did our best to make this as simple as possible. So we really only have 2 rules now. So for initial issuance, or if there's an amendment issuance before the latest use expiration date, the rules are that the permit expiration will be the latest use expiration date plus 6 months. Aditha, if it is, you don't have to do an amendment to change the dates within that 6-month period. You would only need to do an amendment if you go past the issue duration. So like you had 12 days and now you need 20, you need to do an extension. Or if you go past the permit expiration date. Okay, and then if you have an amendment issuance after the latest use expiration date, the rule is the permit expiration will be the date of issuance plus 6 months. And you would have really seen this on converted permits. Aditha, that is probably conversion confusion, and I'm sorry that happened. But thanks if you did it. Yeah, this was a very confusing thing with converted permits, but we feel like we fixed it to make it less confusing. That was the goal anyway. So if it's still confusing, please let us know. We'll help you out. Okay, any other questions on the use versus permit expiration date rules? We should have cleaned up this with even converted permits by now. So if you have any confusions, feel free to email our Seattle Services Portal team.
I think it looks like Christina Rozka has her hand raised.
Okay, Christina, I can unmute you. Okay, go ahead, Christina.
Oh, thank you. No, I was just typing on the side. Thank you.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Appreciate your time.
Little windows you have to manage in WebEx. Okay. So let's talk about how to manage inspections during the 6-month expiration period. So we kind of streamlined the process to not have to manage your use dates in the 6-month period. But so now the onus is you have to manage your inspections during the 6-month expiration period. So just a reminder that you can schedule the initial inspection through the job start notification. You can schedule and reschedule the job start as much as you can, as long as you follow the rules. So let's go through some of those rules. Just a reminder that if your use start date, that the use start date is the beginning of the issued use period, if you are trying to work before that use start date, you have to apply for a date change amendment in order to do that. You cannot ask for a job start before the issued use start date. Now, if you're after or on the issued use start date and before the use expiration date, you can schedule, well, actually it's 2 business days. I know Tina's yelling at me right now. 2 business days before you want to start. Just a reminder that you can only change the job start if you're 2 business days before that use start date or the scheduled job start date. So if you're within that 2 business days before area, you can reschedule your job start as many times as you can. So if you're not sure when you're going to work, you can push that job start out 30 business days from when you're making that change. So you just really have to pay attention to this and manage this, because if you go beyond that 2 business days advance notice, you don't have a way to change the job start. Or if you go past the use expiration date, you won't be able to change the job start.
Got a couple questions from Jen and Tammy. Jen says, or asks, so everything else constant, you buy time when you maximize the duration of your permit. Is that correct? Can you tell use of what point additional fees triggered for days of use for both right-of-way IP and TCPs, trying to maximize duration, minimize fees?
Minimize fees. I mean, the use fee methodology is quite complicated. If you're on a non-arterial street, you don't get charged use fees for 30 days. If you're on an arterial street, yeah, fees do escalate with time, but typically your work would just be in that first round of use fees, depending on what mobility you're closing. There is not much difference between 5 and 10 days. There is not that many use fees that get collected on utility permits, short-term utility permits in general. I'm not sure that is, you know, trying to really fine tune that is, you know, going to save you that much money in the long run, Mary. I'm happy to send you more information about use fees offline though. Tammy, what are you confused about? You say you're confused, but I don't know what you're confused about. Nope, you do not need to wait for someone to approve the job start. It's done automatically. As long as you're following the rules, it's done automatically. Okay, Jen, so everything else constant, you buy time when you maximize the duration. Oh, that's kind of, those 2 questions were kind of related. Go ahead.
Melanie, I put the gentleman's question, I typed it in, but I didn't know if he saw it or not. But it's basically 3 feet. Anything that's in excess.
Deeper than 3 feet, you mean?
Yeah, deeper than 3 feet. Excavation or construction adjacent to the street right of way, deeper than 3 feet, and any excavation where the plane extending from the bottom of the excavation at 100%, a 45-degree angle slope crosses the property or street right of way.
Okay, thanks, Patty. Okay,
Looks like there's a
Joshua.
question from Joshua.
Oh yeah. Hey, Dale, I was there too. Thanks. If you're working on unforeseen conditions occurs, which adds time to your street use duration, do you need to stop work while you wait for a permit extension to increase your street use duration? You need to work with your district inspector on that, Josh. What?
Two things need to happen in that situation as far as our response to halting your work in the field. One is you need to communicate with your inspector about the nature of the change and the impact so that we can discuss whether or not that's a major issue regarding what you've sorted out with scheduling, adjacent impacts, etc. So starts with talking to your inspector directly about the change as early as possible. The other thing that we need to see out of that conversation, is that if you are actually going to add days, if you're required to submit an amendment, that you get that amendment in. That amendment might be in discussion, but if you're not filing it, you're not moving forward on it, we're going to have an issue with that. So talk to your inspector and make sure if you do need to amend and update your permit, that you at least have submitted the things that you need to do to start that process, because that will be visible to us and that will give us, a confirmation that this is all moving forward together in alignment with permitting.
Yeah, and if the inspector will work with the reviewer too. So if we know that we need to get that extension out sooner than later, we will definitely help support that as much as we can. Okay, so let's talk about the 6-month expiration period and when an amendment is required. Okay, just high level. You are able to do as much as you can do within that 6-month expiration period without submitting an amendment, except when you go past your issue duration, or when you go past the permit expiration date. The other thing to note is if you need to work before your issued use start date, you have to apply for a date change amendment. So there's 2 buckets. There's one before use start date. That's a date change amendment. You're just moving the date forward. So you thought you were working in July and now you got to work in May. You're moving that date forward. Or it's the after options where you're past your issue duration or you're past the 6-month expiration period. That's when you need an extension. Any other questions on that?
Hey, Melody, it's Tina. I would also just, with the date change, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what happens is when we have your start date that you've given in your application, we automatically schedule that initial inspection based on that start date that you have given us. So if your start date is, if you're planning on not meeting that start date, that's another reason to adjust your start date with a date change, right? Because if you're moving it forward, let's say for Melody's example, if you have your permit issued for June, if you decide to start in July, we need to know that too, because otherwise an inspector is going to come out there in June because we have that initial inspection scheduled. And you can see that on your inspections page.
And that inspector will charge you for going out there and doing an initial that you said you wanted done at that date, because that's when you told us you were starting.
So there's two things to be aware of, is amendments and when those are aware of, and how to manage your inspections, which is your communication to the inspector. Any other questions on that? So Aditha, the date for you to put on your issued permit is really up to you. I don't know what you have historically have done. You can push it 30 days out, 60 days out. I think whatever is that kind of average time it takes. If you just can avoid doing date change amendments to move the date forward, would be your best bet. That makes sense. Well, if you can get all your stuff done, even with pushing it 2 weeks out within that 6-month period, there's no issues with that. It's just kind of how is all that work lining up for you guys? It's probably a conversation to have internally. Kim, you can go to our street use inspections website, and you'll find all the information about inspections there. We also have a bunch of really good, we have a couple of good help articles. I have here, so how to provide a job start notification of street use, or how to request a street use inspection. These are on the Help Center. Okay, any other questions on that? Just in general, we're getting away from client assistant memos and trying to move that information to websites. Jen, that is a good point, that your start date should be at least 8 weeks out if timelines are around 8 weeks. Yes. That, especially if you're in a hub area, that does have potential to slow your review down if you're trying to ask for something in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm going to move on. Let's talk about how to schedule or reschedule a job start after your use expiration date. So again, if you go to the portal and you try to reschedule your job start after the use expiration date, it won't allow you to do so. In that case, you will need to contact the district inspector directly to make that change. And in that case, you do have to wait for someone to approve it, right? If you're able to go through the portal by proactively managing it, you don't have to wait. But if you missed it, and that's okay, it happens, then you can just contact the district inspector directly. Hey, does everyone also know we have a restoration inspection now and a restoration notification? We're not seeing this used that much. So when you're at the point of your final restoration, you need to let the inspectors know by scheduling the restoration inspection through that restoration notification. Does that make sense? Okay, Jen, you asked something about so sometimes we do push start dates out based on kind of global conversations we have with agencies. You know, we have a lot of volume coming through the door. We're not always able to get that clarification for every permit number. So if you're seeing some behavior that doesn't quite work for your group, just reach out to me, and then we can make that adjustment internally. It kind of varies by organization, though, how we do that. This is Kim. Everything I'm talking about right now. I mean, I'm talking specifically to utility permits, but these things are on SIP permits too. Right-of-way construction, SIP, utility. So yeah, just go to the street use inspection website and to learn more about inspections. Okay, I'm moving on. Oh, say it again about restoration. Okay, I'll say it. Okay, we have a new inspection called restoration inspection. You need to schedule that through the restoration notification. At least 2 business days before you start work, go into the portal, schedule your restoration inspection when you're ready to do the final restoration work. Okay, let's talk about how to respond to corrections. A lot of confusion on this since we've launched. So corrections can be required at the screening task or review evaluation task. You can tell that there's corrections required when the record status is at awaiting corrections. That means you need to respond to something. So you can find your record status either on your My Permits Records page. There's a street use specific one here. You can open up the permit by clicking on the blue hyperlink. You can also search for the permit number too, just off of the portal. Open it that way. So when you're on the permit itself, you click on the status tab here, and you can find the conditions that are required here. We use conditions to ask for things, typically documents. Most of the time, the condition is tied to a document, but I also know that we also use that just to ask for clarification information. I'll get to that in a second. You can view more details about the condition by clicking on the View Conditions button. And here's a interesting thing to know about it. The status icons to the left here, these process steps, tell you a story. So if you see an asterisk, that means that there has been at least one correction cycle off of that step. If you see an hourglass, that means that step is in process. If you see a green check, that means that step is completed. Jen, you are asking for the restoration notification. No one, the only people who get it is the inspector. Anyone can schedule an inspection. They don't have to be a permit contact. There are fees associated anytime an inspector goes out and performs an inspection, whether you're there on site or not. Okay, one thing that to remember is that the corrections document is the street use comment sheet. The corrections response document is the street use comment sheet with your responses added. If there's a corrections response condition on your permit, you will need to upload the street use comment sheet as the corrections response document to satisfy that condition. Sorry if my son's being a little too loud. So if there really is a street use comment sheet associated with your corrections, you can find that in the attachment section of your record. And so you click on the attachments tab and go down until you see the corrections document. And to open that, just click on the blue hyperlink. You'll have to download it to your computer, add your responses as you're addressing everything. And then once you're ready to respond, that would be one of the documents you need to upload to satisfy that condition. Okay, so once you're responding to the corrections from the portal, one thing to remember is that the condition name is associated with that document name, right? So if we ask for a corrections response document through the corrections response condition, please make sure that when you're uploading that document, you're naming it the same thing as that condition. Those are one and the same. If we asked for a corrections response document through the corrections response condition and you upload a site plan instead, it will not satisfy the condition and you're still stuck in awaiting conditions. This is how you upload documents. I think everyone's pretty familiar with this right now. So if you did everything correctly, your record status will change from awaiting corrections to corrections submitted. That's how you know that it is now in our court. Okay, so what to do if you're still in awaiting corrections? Here are just some tips to think about to try to get that to corrections submitted. So like I just said, verify that there are no other conditions required, right? Maybe there was 2 conditions, whatever. Verify that the document type uploaded matches the name of the condition. Actually, that's what I just said. And then for converted permits, please know that just based on how we were able to bring information from Hansen to Accela, that we had to kind of do a default condition on converted permits that were in a correction cycle. And so it may say corrections response, but really we asked for a revised traffic control plan. I think everyone has seen this a time or two. Just remember, in order to satisfy the condition, you have to tell Accela that that revised traffic control plan is the corrections response document. That will get you into corrections submitted. Record status, we'll take it from there. We will fix that in the backend. Any questions on that? Christina Moulet, are those on converted permits or new? That would be my first question back to you. And then I would also say that if you're having that many issues, that just contact us offline and I'll tell you how to get help at the end of this. New, okay. We can talk about it at the end too. Okay, so let's talk about side sewer permits. We have changed the side sewer permit process. It's quite different than it has been historically. So we just wanted to go over that, make sure everyone was aware of what is required now. So The SDOT street use side sewer permit is found on the minor utility permit. So if you need to apply for a side sewer permit offline of the SCCI permit, just go to the minor utility permit type and select the side sewer / drainage use type. You can now apply for this at any time. You don't have to wait for SDCI side sewer permit, or you can apply for both permits at the same time, and I'll go over that in a minute. We do require a right-of-way impact plan for this. This does follow the normal permit review process now, so it's not just us issuing kind of like that default permit we did historically. And we still can't issue our permit until the SDCI permit is issued. That remains the same. Okay, so here's the new, there's two options to apply for SDOT side sewer permits. The first option is you can apply for it off of the SDCI side sewer permit. So you go through the normal SDCI side sewer permit process. Within that application, you can ask that a SDOT permit get created. Once SDCI issues their side sewer permit, the SDOT sewer permit will get created and will sit in application submitted. Okay, and then we take it from there. So it's not an automatic issuance, but it is an automatic application creation. And we do try to get to these within 5 business days, and we do try to get these out as soon as we can. So this is what it looks like on the side sewer, the SDCI side sewer permit. If you want an SDOT permit to be created, make sure you click this yes button here and make sure that you give us an estimated start date and duration. All right, so if you want us to do that, once SDCI issues their permit, that application will be created. Those 2 permits will be related, by the way. And then we'll start working on the SR application and permit after that. Okay, the other option is you can apply for the SDOT permit in advance of the SDCI permit. We really recommend doing that when you need, when the work requires a traffic control plan, you're in a hub area, when it requires additional time for us to get through our review cycle, rather than the 2-3 business days that SDCI takes to issue their side sewer permit. So you can just apply through the Seattle Services portal. We'll work on your permit, and then if at the end of our review, the SCCI permit still isn't issued, we'll just wait until that has been issued. And we'll ask that you tell us through a correction cycle when that permit has been issued, if that makes sense. This option allows you to try and align the issuance events between those 2 permits better, if that works for you. Okay, so just a summary of that. We do have a help article on the Help Center right now on how to apply for a street use side sewer permit. We're also working on a side sewer FAQ help article that we'll publish probably in the next couple of weeks. Just to summarize the new process, you always have to have a separate SDOT permit if you're working in the right-of-way. You can either apply for the SDOT permit offline of the SCCI permit, or you can ask that an SDOT permit be created off of the SCCI permit. We'll review our permit in our normal, typical minor utility business process ways. We'll use the duration you ask for instead of the old predetermined 180 and 540 days. Fees are now collected separately from each department, and there's no longer an RSSE program. So there you go. Any questions on that?
There are a couple of questions from Ben and on the Q&A section.
Ben is asking about the permit review / approval fees would be published as an invoice in the attachments tab. If there is an invoice, it is on the attachments tab, correct, Tina? But only the FRP can see it.
Right. I'm just trying to respond and can't submit it. Sorry. We are working on, so there's a couple of things. Most permits are paid in advance, right, in order to issue. And that's where you're going to see your use and issuance fees.
Well, Tina,
Yeah.
only construction permits are paid in advance. Otherwise, like utility permits are billed always.
Okay.
Typically.
So those you will see an invoice. Only the financially responsible party, the FRP, has access to that invoice right now.
But it is housed on the attachments tab of the permit?
It's housed on the attachments tab of the invoice record.
Oh, the invoice record, which is a related
to the permit.
Yeah.
Right, because we have some that are consolidated. So there's one invoice that covers several records.
Yeah, so just a reminder to everyone that review and inspection fees are always billed no matter what. And for contractor work, we do ask that the use fees be paid before we issue the permit and the issuance fees. Otherwise, if you're an agency or a regulated utility, everything gets billed. Okay, which means invoiced. Bill equals invoiced. Does the SCCI permit need to apply for prior to applying to SDOT? No. We just can't issue the SDOT side sewer permit until the SCCI side sewer permit is issued. Any other questions on side sewers? I don't know how many side sewer people we have on, but we are seeing a lot of work being done on the right of way without an SDOT side sewer permit. So please make sure you're applying and getting the SDOT permit before you start work, so we don't have to do enforcement. Okay, I'm moving on. We have a new change existing contact form. This is to change existing contacts already on your permit. So you can change any of the required 4 contacts, which is applicant, on-site, owner, and FRP. Or if like you added an additional contact, you can also make a request to change that as well. Just a reminder that to make a contact change after issuance, you have to apply for a revision amendment. And previously, you just had to request that change in the amendment description box. But now we're going to ask that you upload this change existing contact form, which is linked in this slide here. For right now, you have to upload that as other documents. Eventually, there will be a specific document type called change existing contact form, but that's a little ways out. Carl has a question. With this being a new process, will a permit number be issued and will it be auto-billed if we are already set up for that? Carl, I'm assuming you're talking about the side sewer permit. Side sewer permits are not typically billed. You'll get billed for review and inspection fees, but you'll have to pay for the use and issuance fees before we issue the permit. Denied permitting due to this. Permitting. Christina, what do you mean by you've been denying permitting due to not having an SDOT permit or not having an SDCI permit? Huh. Well, will you email me if that happens? That shouldn't be happening. You can apply for our permit anytime. Okay, and just a reminder that if you need to change a contact for an in-process application, you can just email SDOT permits to make that change. This is Tina's favorite subject. We have new grant access functionality live. It went live yesterday. This is very exciting. So we have a new amendment type. It is called the Street Use Enable Access. It allows you to add an additional contact on the parent permit that will live on all related amendments after that, that gives access to do the following: respond to corrections, submit amendments, upload and view documents. Not the invoice yet. We're still working on that solution. In order to successfully add an additional contact, you must know the email address associated with that contact's Seattle Services Portal account. Otherwise, they will not be granted access. So that relationship is critical. The contact you add to your permit must be associated with that contact's portal account, or it's a no-go. That is an Accela feature we all love. Whoops, sorry. This amendment cannot be used to change existing contacts. You'll have to go through the revision amendment, like I was just talking about. And you can start using this now. There's a help article. I've linked it here on how to do that. And this is one of those very short amendment processes that once you submit it, it's pretty much done. It updates the parent permit and it closes out. There's no review required from street use staff on this amendment. Any questions on that?
Woohoo!
Carla, yeah, if you are a what we call a billable entity, then yes, that will carry through on any SDOT permit that is created, as long as, again, you're using the right contact. So we copy everything over from the SCCI permit. So if the wrong contact was added to that permit, that may or may not work, if that makes sense. So if you see that the wrong contact is being used and you need to change that, you can email our Seattle Service Portal team to get that fixed. Okay, we also have a new section in our general revision, date change, and extension amendments where you can add additional contact to that amendment only. So the difference is you can use enable access and amendment to add a contact for everything, or if you just need to give someone access to that amendment, you can add them in this new additional contact section of the amendment application. And again, just a reminder, we can't say this enough. If the contact you add is not associated with that contact's portal account, they will not have access. So you just got to make sure you have the right contact. Now, this is one of my favorite subjects, and that is the permit priority section is now available on your application page. It is on the related information page, page 4 of the application. So in addition to adding one of the priority reasons in your project and location description, please also indicate it in this permit priority, because this is how we will prioritize our queue to prioritize those permits. So in order for SDOT to expedite your permit, it has to be related to a public health or safety emergency, an approved affordable housing project that is approved by our Office of Housing, or is part of a transportation corridor improvement project. If it's related to an SDOT project, a Sound Transit project, WashDOT, etc. King County. Tina, is this on the amendment applications? I forget.
It is.
Okay, great. So that is available now. All right, so we kind of touched upon this a little earlier, but traffic control plans the timelines are about 21 business days right now. That group is hiring. We are also working internally just to find ways to streamline that process as much as possible. But really what we're seeing a lot is just a lot of incomplete traffic control plans being submitted, and those having to have multiple correction cycles to get to where we need that traffic control plan to be. So we need some help from you guys too. We need to make sure that you have the right resources and tools you need to know what we're asking for. So please make sure you're familiar with CAM 2111, you're familiar with the City of Seattle Traffic Control Manual, that you understand what the site looks like today. You know, the channelization that's shown on the TCP base map tool may not be current. It takes us time to get those GIS layers updated because everyone's doing work out there in the right of way. If you're lucky enough to have a camera around the area you're working off of the SDOT Travelers map, please look at that. And then the other thing we'll say, someone probably needs to go to the site and just verify the channelization to make sure it's current. I have to say this is one of the biggest things that will minimize correction cycles on TCPs, is if you are ensuring the channelization you are showing on your TCP is what is there existing. Some other constant themes. Oh, sorry, I missed some questions here. Okay, so Jen, you are asking, is there any way to get a notice in Accela before submitting that kind of other documents are required, such as a payment moratorium waiver? We do have some tips on our websites on how to determine that information. There's no way for Accela to know. It does require a human eye. So like a historic district is one of the automatic ones, but yeah, payment moratorium, we do have a map out there that shows you current payment moratoriums, and then that'll give you a heads up. You know, those are one of those documents that's kind of like a condition of review, so it typically doesn't hold up your permit that long. But yeah, that's one way. There's other tips on our websites for other documents too. Critical, oh, back to the permit priority. Sorry, I didn't see that question. Critical is, it is defined here. So the critical one, I don't remember why we use critical here. That is in support of an SDOT or other transportation project. So it's listed on this section here. John, that's a very good question on does the priority level also include getting work done in advance of planned payment moratoriums? I would say you could put that as critical, and you can also email us. We do want, that is a big advantage to us to get that work done. So you can use critical, and then also just send me and Judy an email as a heads up. That is important. Okay, some other things that we're seeing that are causing a lot of TCP corrections is around sidewalk closures, pedestrian mobility closures. Just a reminder that your pedestrian reroute or detour needs to meet Client Assistant Memo 2110. That is around requirements in our Pedestrian Mobility Directors Rule. If you need to close a sidewalk, you need to provide a narrative on why you're closing the sidewalk and why you can't provide a reroute. That will help you get through the door. One thing to know is if you're needing to close a protected bike lane, that means that it's protected with some sort of barrier or striping, that we do not want you merging bikes into the general purpose traffic. We want you to detour that bike traffic. And so we are working on some guidance around how we want you to do that. But if you could at least take some effort to figure out how to get bikes around your construction zone and send them to other protected bike lanes around the neighborhood, that'll help you minimize correction cycles on your TCP. And then also,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll finish this and then I'll get to it. Thanks, Dale. If you need to close a bike lane at all, whether it's a protected bike lane or just a striped bike lane, also provide a narrative of why you need to close that bike lane and why you can't reroute that mobility. Jen, that's a good question on if the application is already submitted. Yes, please email the reviewer directly if we need to expedite that permit. I would say the other thing is, always make sure that you're putting that information in the project and location description. So then at least when the reviewer gets to it, they see it, if just in case. Okay, we're in the how to get help section. Look at that. All right. So, hey, you guys, we've done a lot of work on our websites. Please always start by going to the website. If you have a question about anything, go to the website. Please go to the website. You can also get to the Seattle Services portal from all our websites in the right panel. You can also sign up for our Street Use monthly newsletter on the right panel of every website. Also, Help Center, the Seattle Services Portal Help Center is a very good resource. Please get familiar with these 3 sections. We are updating and adding help articles almost monthly based on your guys' questions and feedback. So, and I'll provide those, I provide those updates in our monthly newsletter as well. There's a lot of good stuff out there already. And then, of course, you can always reach out to us directly. We have our Seattle Services Portal team on board. You can email them for general portal navigation questions, accessing or understanding your converted permits, contact fixes or changes. If you just, need help in general about the Accela environment, that's the email you go to for that. DOT permits is still around. You can email that for general inquiries and coaching. Contact changes for permits or amendments in process, fee disputes, anything like that. We are working on some virtual coaching options that we hope to get up and going next month. So look forward to that. You can email the assigned reviewer to request a change to an in-process application or an in-process amendment. If you need some clarification on corrections, especially on converted permits, we know that's a point of confusion. Permit status inquiries outside the posted permit timelines. And then if you're having portal account issues, that really needs to go to our IT department. So you would email that Seattle Services IT help. Okay, I'm just gonna open it up for general Q&A. So if you have questions that we didn't address already.
It looks like Kim has 2 questions on the chat here. Question 1, the parking permit process is only for 30 days in advance and flags a correction if not done. Since we do not know when the street use permit will be approved, we have to keep changing the dates. Can this be considered to go back to how it was before, please? Question mark. We constantly have to change, not lean at all. And question 2, can you start using the right-of-way when approved, as you are still waiting for a building permit?
Okay, so I'll address the parking permit question. That is an integrated process between our transit mobility and parking divisions. It is a new integration. It's something we want to do for several years, and that is just to help ensure we're getting the paid parking revenue that is often lost to construction projects. So that's the reason behind it. We understand that the 30-day restriction is an issue. And it's not a street use policy, but we are working with those divisions to see if we can revise that. I think we have a meeting next week on it. So we are starting to look at that policy and see if we can make that process easier. But I don't think the integration is ever going to go away. I think what we're going to look at instead is what is the reason for the 30-day, and if there's a way to extend that so you don't have that issue. So we don't want that to happen. But yes, we're working on that. So again, that is only for paid parking impacts. Nothing. RPZ is a residential thing, and if you're not impacting paid parking, it's not integrated into our permit process. You still need to go get your temporary no parks and your temporary no park permit, but we won't hold your street use permit up for that. I did put something about that in our last newsletter, by the way. Okay, there's a question about the building permit. If every new building construction project required to have a SIP permit, would be exempt. Hey, Anderson, there's a question about SIP permits and when a project would be exempt from a SIP based on land use requirements. Anderson still here?
Oh, hi. I'm Anderson. I'm the SIP PM. So there is a long list of threshold for SIPs. The main one being if it's over 2,000 square foot. So if you exceed that threshold, it's automatically a SIP already. I don't know if there's some exceptions to the list of threshold. So if you meet any of the threshold on the list, then it's a SIP permit. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Anderson. Carmen, your request kind of trailed off. Yes, we will be sending, we can't send the deck, the PowerPoint presentation out, but we will post it on our website along with the recording and also send it out in our monthly newsletter. Kim, you'll probably need to email me offline on what you're talking about being charged for $1,600. Oh, the help section. Oh, okay, I got it. Carmen, thanks. Any other questions?
I think Kim wanted some clarification. Can you start using the right-of-way when approved, as you are still waiting for a building permit?
Now, depending on the work, if it's our right-of-way construction permit, we don't issue our right-of-way construction permit until the building permit is issued. So the answer to that is no. Utility work is able to move forward, but not the construction work related to the building permit. The first building permit, I would say, it's the related building permit, right? If you're doing demo, then the demo building permit has to be issued.
It looks like Bilkis Amin has a question and would like to be unmuted.
Okay. Okay, Bilkis, you're unmuted.
Oh, thank you so much. I have a couple of questions. First, we have a lot of confirming jobs that we need to apply a permit after the fact. So this job is done already. So do we supposed to, what do you call that, attach all the documents like right-of-way impact plan, site plan, photo, and all these things? So just like a engineering drawing is okay under the other documents?
Well, in order to submit the application, you need to submit a document for everything that we're asking for. I would say at a minimum, we need to know where you worked and what right-of-way you used to do that work, even though the work is done, right? Because we still need to set up the permit as if the work wasn't already performed, if that makes sense.
Now, my question is, what documents you need? Engineering sketch is okay for under, if you upload it under other documents is okay, or we have to put like a regular utility permit, like right-of-way impact plan, site plan, photo. We don't need all these things, right? Just drawings that is already tell that where is the pole location, what is the work is done under the description. That is my question. We have a lot of requests coming to do job after the fact, so permit after the fact. So that's why I'm asking.
Hey, Mark, if you want to take that one.
Sure. We still need to be able to document what happened where in the right of way. So for instance, maybe we wouldn't need a traffic control plan if the work was already done and we're not planning on extending it. But we still need the right-of-way impact plan and site plan to show what parts of the right-of-way were impacted during the work and what utilities went in and where.
Okay. Okay. The next question is the corrections and the additional info requested and the corrections response. There's sometimes very confusion for us what exactly we need to upload the documents on the Accela. Like if you guys request that the email says additional info requested, so we just read the comment what you guys requested and upload it under the attachment, right? Just, and also I have a question about the corrections. There's a 2 slot says corrections and corrections response. What exactly we need to select from there?
Hey, Mark, you want to take that one too?
Sure. The first indication that something additional info is required should be an email, and in that email there's a little section of comments that says comments if any, and then there's a description of what's required, and it should be the same correction method that we went over earlier. There should be a condition of approval that's required that says updated site plan, updated right-of-way impact plan, something like that, and then you need to upload that same document type in order to get it from awaiting additional information or additional info needed back into additional info submitted.
Okay, and then we will know that we are just going to wait for a couple minutes or maybe a couple hours to see the corrections submitted. Then we know that it's already in process or get into the system, right?
It should be automatic though, because if you met all of the conditions, the record status would change right in front of your eyes.
Okay, okay. The third question is, this is my last. The job start, like when you guys issued the permit to us and there's a issued, it is very confusing for everybody, for us too. So we just need to clarify that. Like you guys gave us an use time, like 10 days or 30 days for depending on the non-arterial and arterial, and also give us a 6 months, the window that our crew can do the job within this time. If that's 10 days passed, so the crew gonna do the job start change or extension or revision, what they exactly need to do in that case? What request they need to be request for the amendment? If they need additional days, like if the 10 days passed, or they need more days, not 10 days, not enough. So what is exactly they need to do?
They need to apply for an extension permit.
Oh, okay, extension.
But your job
If
start
you-
should have already been done if they've already started the work.
Okay, and if they need more time, they can do the extension, right?
If they need more duration,
time.
they need to do an extension amendment.
So you guys do the same, follow the same rule, like still the 10 days for arterial and 30 days for non-arterial, if we extend that?
It's up to you. We don't work in 10-day increments anymore.
Okay,
We
okay.
just do it by day. So you guys just put what the average time you think you need.
But I heard that if we put the date, the duration for arterial for 10 days to 60 days, it's cost involved by using the square feet, right?
Yeah, and then on, arterial streets, the use fees escalate or quicker.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't want to do 60 days, but if your average is 12, do 12.
Okay, just the use time, right?
Yes.
Okay, use period. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Marta, traffic control plan requirements on non-arterials. That's still required if you're in a hub area. So if you're on a non-arterial and a hub area and you're closing a sidewalk, bike lane, or travel lane, then yes, a traffic control plan is required. Eric, can the roll-up and site plan be the same document? The answer is yes, but there's 2 things you need to do. One is on that shared document, you need to label it ROIP plus site plan. And 2, you need to upload that document twice. One as a ROIP and one as a site plan to submit the application. What's the difference between a ROIP and a site plan? That is found in CAM 2116. All right, Tammy, I'm going to unmute you. So go to our website. It'll tell you all you need to know about plans and send you to CAM 2116. Tammy, you have been unmuted.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi,
So
Tammy.
I am piggyback writing from Bukis's question. So our department's a bit different. So Bukis and her team are the one that applies for the permit and they estimate a start date for us. My team are the one that's actually execute this job start and actually go out and complete it. Now, if they estimate a time for us, but we haven't gotten to it yet, we have to do an amendment, right, for the start date. But if the start date is before we got a chance to start it, it's a lot complicated job, correct? Because that needs to be an extension now, correct?
Well, it depends. So if you're in the 6-month permit expiration time
Mm-hmm.
and the duration is the same or below the issued duration, there's no amendment needed. So if you're between the time of the issued use start date
Mm-hmm.
and this permit expiration,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going beyond the issue duration, there's no amendment required.
So let's say the start date was February 1st and the end date was February 14th. And I'm coming in on February 16th and trying to job start it for the next 3 days. I'm still okay.
No.
You're
No.
okay from you don't need to apply for an amendment perspective. You're not okay in the fact that you're past your use expiration and now you can't change the job start in the portal. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what action do I need to do on that?
You'll need to email the inspector directly saying, I want to start on this day. Is this okay? And they have to change that on the back end.
Got it. And if it's past 6 months from the date, the end date, then I would need to do an amendment.
If you're past the permit expiration date, you have to extend the permit.
And that's 6 months, no longer a year, right? Because
It never was a year. It was 90
okay.
days.
90 days. Okay.
The year thing is some historic thing around just overall how long does it take. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing.
Okay. So then there's another question that I have. So what if they pushed it out to, let's say today is February, but they pushed it out to July for start date, and we actually got the job early and want to roll out in March 1st. What action is that? Is that a new job start date?
Yep.
Okay. Got it. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. Okay, so Kim has a question. Kim, there are, but we don't have a list, nor do we share that list. If we did have a list, but we don't have a list. Okay. What do we do if we need to contact someone for corrections, but the assigned party is TBD? Oh, Ben, if the permit has been assigned yet, just email s.permits. Okay, so more questions about use fees. Our escalation has not changed, even though we've changed our use fee methodology over the last few years. So just a reminder that non-arterial permits do not get assessed use fees for 30 days. On arterial permits, you start accruing use fees on day 1. So for arterial permits, you have the same rate for 30 days, and then it starts escalating. I don't know these things by heart, but that's how it is. We'd have a website called How to Estimate and Pay Fees, and that will give you a little more insight into use fees. And we also have a use fee estimator tool on there as well. We do accrue by day now. We no longer use 10-day increments. That changed in 2019. So you have the ability to give us actual days and not be forced into 10-day increments. Oh, also, we have a new thing that went live when we launched on November 11th, where you can also indicate if you're working every day, which is 7 days a week, only during the week, which is 5 days, or only on the weekends. So you have that option as well. Any other questions? Okay, there's a question about temporary no park permits. Not following that question 100%. So you need a temporary no park permit regardless on if you're in paid parking or unpaid parking area. So that's always a requirement. The paid parking temporary no park permits are integrated with our street use permits now. It doesn't have anything to do whether or not you're having SDOT place the signage. That's offline. Probably, I don't know if you do that during the billing agreement. Kim, cracking me up today. Can we do this monthly? Eventually, maybe. Let us get through our Accela transition first, and then we'll talk about it. So Leah, I don't know if I answered your question 100%, so let me know if there's any other questions you have related to that. Thanks, Christina. Sure, I'll unmute you, Leah. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So just a little bit of back. We were contacted by SDOT. They were just trying to confirm how we were going to notify people about the no parking in this area. And they wanted to see if we were needing them to do it. So they were going to do the yellow or the red signage, or if we were going to do it. And I was trying to kind of confirm if with us doing it, does that also require on top of the paid parking area no park to also submit another application as an unpaid parking area to have that notice go out?
Who from SDOT was asking you?
Let's see. It was a Christopher Wendell.
Are you talking about permit hooding? Hooding pay stations, putting out gorilla posts with hoods?
Not putting out pay stations, just we were trying to do no parking in an area that was a pay station. And we had the the TEP no park in a paid area submitted and everything, and it was processed. However, on the day that it was all being done, someone also came to our crew and said we had done it incorrectly.
I don't know, Aaliyah. That's not street use, so I don't. That's unfamiliar to me.
Melody?
Yeah.
That's a gorilla post placement issue and possibly hooding and signage issue that's coordinated directly with traffic operations. So that question needs to go that direction related to their paid area parking no parking process. Because typically they're gonna ask to they're going to schedule SDOT crews a lot of the times to go out and put those gorilla posts up for you based on your application. I think you have some options to do some of that work yourself. That's all coordinated with traffic operations. And typically they would not want both A-frames. Typical like self-standing wood signs, wood or metal signs, and gorilla posts. The flip side of that is if you do one and not the other, or if you do the A-frames and not the gorilla posts, which is what they're going to prefer in paid areas, there are some complications in that communication, but that needs to be taken up with them.
Okay.
Aaliyah, you can always email me, and then I can at least give you to the right people to answer that question.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we got a couple minutes here, you guys. Any other questions? All right, I'm not seeing any. Oh, sorry, did I miss something? These chat windows are weird. Okay, so a question about what is the best practice for requesting the amount of days to perform a job when weather can come into question? Yes, I always say, and Lukey, you can chime in, you have to always add days to consider weather delays. I'm not an expert on your work, nor am I a weather person, but yes, I always encourage adding some flexibility there.
I don't think we can give blanket guidance on that. That's very meaningful. You're going to have to work with your folks. You need to think about what your scheduling requirements are. Obviously, you're going to have more communication barriers and more complications about extending or changing dates if you have to also engage not just the inspector, but hub, for instance. It really is dependent on the nature and type of work that you have, the durations, the type of impact. It's a very active conversation that needs to go on. Ultimately, you're going to have to decide what's in your best interest as far as, what the current conditions are. What I can suggest is you want to err on the side of more days if you are going to have to do additional coordination. Like, for instance, like I just mentioned, if you're dealing with a hub, so you're going to have conversations with additional parties to sort out shifts in date and resolve issues around that, you're probably going to want to add additional days. What those are up to you. what I can encourage you to do is to make sure that if you're contemplating that, be in direct contact with your inspector about the potential for weather shifts so that they can adjust and help support that conversation, especially when it comes to if they need to change inspection dates in the back office and things like that, so that you guys stay on the same page. Generally, though, you're going to have to work with your operations staff in the field to determine, what's reasonable given your scope of work. Can be very individual. So I would just say, the more coordination complications you have in shifting dates, the more dates the longer you're probably going to want to extend your time. But definitely, this is one of those reasons to maintain contact with your inspector, because when you get into that situation where you're less than 48 hours and you can't reschedule things in the portal, you're going to need to coordinate with the inspector to square things away in the back end about when your inspections are actually happening.
Thanks, Suki. Okay, so I had a question on where is SIP on the portal. So if you click on permits / street use, it's going to be under the major street improvement section right here. Okay, Bilkis, you had a question on can you reapply if the permit is 2 to 3 years or older and open? As long as the permit is open and not closed, you can apply for an amendment. That's where that old 1 year concept was, and it doesn't exist. We don't close your permits unless we confirm the work is complete to the best of our ability, or you asked us to close it. The fee site, Jen, is how to estimate and pay fees. It's just on our permits page on seattle.gov. Ben, if you don't have access to an attachment, that means they are not a permit contact. So they have to be a permit contact, either one of the required 4, or a contact, or an additional contact, or a delegate. Bilkis, yes, we're closing old permits out. If anything's done in error, please let us know. You can email the SSP email. Jen, I don't see your question about impacts and planning strips. Can you ask that? Or maybe it's already taken care of. So Bing, the Sioux Crane permits do not have the 6-month expiration date, only utility permits. Only minor utility and utility major permits have the 6-month expiration period. So yes, you'll need to come back and apply for an extension to finish that work. Is the new contact addition or contact change part for SDCI? No, it's for you on our permits. Tammy, yeah, again, if the permit is not closed, you can apply for an extension. Marta, I'm not sure what you're asking there. You can email me offline though. Yes, converted permits, as long as they're not closed, you can still apply for an amendment. Okay, everyone. Well, that's the end of this session. We're going to have another one next quarter. If you have questions in between, you know where how to get a hold of us. Okay, Jen, I'll answer your question, then I'll go ahead and close it up. In the Minor Utility Permits app, there's a question about other right-of-way impacts. If there's an impact to the planning strip, should yes technically be toggled? Or is the planning strip included in the impact types above? It's in other. Yeah, it's in other right away. Now you can add it to your use description. Now I know what you're talking about. Add it to your use description that it's a planning strip, but yeah, it's under the category of other right-of-way impacts. Good question. So is filler, gravel. Okay, well, thanks everyone. I appreciate you coming and participating, and we'll see you soon. Just a reminder that this recording and this PowerPoint presentation will be uploaded to our Accela updates website, and we'll send it out with our newsletter. Thanks.